which is on the theme of improving the student learning experience, putting the transformational learning principles into practice. This keynote will highlight how these transformational learning principles can be put into practice, helping us reimagine the student journey from passive learning to meaningful engagement. And it is my great pleasure to invite on stage our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Richard Culatta, CEO of the International Society for Technology in Education, ISTE. And I would invite Ms. Ankita Divekar Kabra, co-founder, Fountainhead School, Surat, to kindly do the honors of welcoming and felicitating our distinguished speaker with a green certificate. A very, very warm welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Culatta is a globally recognized education leader, passionate about the power of technology to transform learning and teaching. Under his leadership, ISTE has become a driving force in advancing innovation in schools, supporting educators worldwide with tools, framework, and research to prepare students for success in a rapidly changing world. Previously, he served as the Chief Innovation Officer of the state of Rhode Island and led the Office of Educational Technology at the U.S. Department of Education, where he championed digital learning and equitable access to technology. With his unique blend of policy practice and innovation expertise, Mr. Culatta continues to inspire educators across the globe to design the teaching experience that truly engages students and prepare them for the future. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, join me in welcoming Mr. Richard Culatta for the keynote address.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to just set a timer here because I get very excited about talking about innovation in education, and I know we're on a tight time frame, so I'm gonna make sure I don't talk for too long. Okay, here we go. There, got it. Yep. Okay, we are all set. Thank you for having me. Thank you to the Arise leaders for having this wonderful event. I feel so honored to be able to spend a few minutes with you here today. I wanted to just briefly let you know who ISTE and ASCD is. I don't want to take much time, and so I was trying to think about how I could do this. And I'm going to share 5 things that we do with 10 seconds each on the slide. So it will be like a speed dating of who ISTE is. So just really quickly, our name is a little weird. We have ISTE and ASCD. These were 2 separate organizations. One is the group that has been working around the world for many years on thinking about innovation and technology in education. That's ISTE. And then the other is ASCD, which is the group that's really focused on education leadership. And we realize that in this world that we're in now, you can't have one group of education leaders that aren't talking about technology and innovation, and you can't have a group of people talking about technology and innovation that aren't understanding how to lead schools. And so we decided the right thing to do was to bring them together. And so we are now the largest nonprofit organization in the world focused on accelerating innovation in education. We work in 90 countries around the world. Thank you. We work in 90 countries around the world, and our goal is to help make learning better for every student. Okay, so here we go. 5 slides, 10 seconds each. I'm going to tell you what we're about. First thing that we're known for is we do a fun event every year. A number of you have been to that event. We bring about 25,000 education leaders together every year to share the amazing things that they are doing for learning. We'd love to have you all there. We will be in Orlando, Florida in June, and so put that on your radar. The second thing that we do is we help schools around the world prepare their teachers. And we do this through a whole variety of online learning experiences that are human-led. So they're online, but there are humans that are actually leading and facilitating. And we do that on everything from artificial intelligence to digital citizenship to a whole bunch of other topics. Okay, number 3, we certify educators. We're the only organization that has a certification on educators in terms of using technology effectively for learning. And that's an internationally recognized certification. Number 4, we publish some amazing books. We're the largest education publisher, one of the largest education publishers in the world. And so we have some great books that can be available to help as you're thinking about the future of learning. And last one, number 5, we work really hard to make it easier for you to choose the right technology to use in your school. We have something called the EdTech Index. I'm probably standing right in the way of the QR code. EdTech Index, where you can go and we have all of the EdTech products that we can find listed. And when you go in, if we can find any information about those products to help you decide if they are good to put in front of kids, I'm sorry, I'm going to move on to this screen here. You can go to EdTech Index and find it. We will show whether a third-party organization has validated that those products are safe, evidence-based, inclusive, and usable and interoperable. And so the goal here, we've made a goal to save 1,000 hours per school per year by taking the burden off of schools in reviewing apps to see if they are good enough to put in front of kids by having credible third-party reviews of those tools. If you want to know more about what we do, I'll be around afterwards, happy to talk about it. But that's my very quick version of what ISTE and ASCD does. Today, I want to take a minute and talk about what we are focused on helping make happen in the world. And that is, we believe that we have a pretty significant student experience problem in school. Now, many of your schools are an exception to this rule. I've visited several schools in the last couple days, and you have some phenomenal schools. But in general, we struggle with the student experience. I want to tell you a story, actually before this. See how we'll go back for a second. Back, can we go back? There we go, back, there we go. You'll see those in a second. Act surprised. I worry that a lot of our schools, and you heard this from some of our previous speakers, Lord Jim Knight was somewhere around here, talked about how school and learning is not an experience that a lot of students enjoy. Even if you go into good schools and ask them, do they like school? And you say, what do you like about school? If they say, I like sports, I like activities, I like lunch, right? They often pick all of the things other than learning to be excited about. And we need schools where the learning is the thing that is what is so compelling for students. And that other stuff, sports and other stuff, it's great, but the learning is what's compelling and having them come. I often talk to school leaders, and they say, oh, we believe this too. We believe in student-centered learning. And I go, great, student-centered learning. And so I was at a school, not here, in a different country. I was visiting a school, and they kept talking about how important student-centered learning was. And in every classroom that I walked into, I saw students sitting in rows at a desk, copying what was on the board, right? It was a terrible experience. And at the end of the visit, they said, well, what do you think about the student-centered learning that we have? And I said, there's a problem with being at the center of something. The other day, I was at the center of a really terrible traffic jam. I did not want to be there. I was at the center of a really painful dental experience the other day. I did not want to be there. If you are at the center of something and all you want to do is not be at the center of that thing, we have failed. And so student-centered learning is only good if students are wanting to get into the center of the place we're putting them. And we have to make sure that that is the case. In order to help with this, we've created something called the Transformational Learning Principles. And I'll share this with you. We said, if we want all students to have amazing learning experiences, we need to know what an amazing learning experience is. What are the elements of an amazing learning experience? We thought, well, that's easy. I'm sure there's 100 different versions of it. We'll go find the version we want, and we'll point people to it, and we'll be good to go. Turns out, there is nobody had done this. Nobody had, from the viewpoint of the student, come up with a research-based list. These are all, there's a deeper document that has all the research behind all of this. If you want it, you can get it from the QR code. Had gone through and said, these are the elements. If you can only focus on 8 things, I wanted it to be 5. We tried to get it down to 5. There was just too much research that we had to get in there. If you could only focus on 8 things to ensure students have an amazing experience, what are those 8 things, right? These are the 8 things. These are the things that we've seen from years and years of research. We know what it takes, but it's been hard, especially for school leaders, when there's thousands and thousands of research articles out there. Who has even time to read research when you're trying to run a school? And so we've tried to condense these into 8 elements of things that you can do and focus on in order to make sure learning is amazing for your students. Sorry, I'm putting this up, thanks. Okay, so the question that I will leave for you here is, how might learning look different if we designed it around the student experience as the primary goal? As the primary goal, right? What if that was the main design decision that you had? I've had a chance to visit many schools where this is exactly what's happening, and it's wonderful to see. This is a school where at the end of the year, throughout the year, students get to choose the projects that they work on. Choice, it turns out, is a huge element of a good experience. Students don't want to be told what to do all the time. When they get some choice, it helps buy them into the process. Here's another great example of a school where they were optimizing around the student experience. They had, these were older kids, I think 3rd graders, that were interviewing the kindergartners, right? That was a dynamic and experience that they set up that was a really exciting experience for those students. This is an interesting one. Why do I have a picture of a railing when I'm talking about student experience? This is from a school, and some of you may have been to this school, it's Healthy Planet School, that is designed for early age children. Well, most places where young children go, they can't reach the railing or the door or the light switch or any of the things. And so in this school, this is just a thing to note. On the stairs, there's a railing at the height of the student. That is an indication that this is an experience that's been designed around them. Now, you can't always build your own school. It's not always possible. But even in schools that you can't build from scratch, there are things you can do to improve the learning experience. This is a school that I visited about a year ago, and I walked in the whole school, I went from classroom to classroom. And after a while, I thought, there's something different about this school, and I don't know what it is. The students had laptops, but I go to lots of schools where the students have laptops, so that wasn't it. And I realized after about the 4th or 5th classroom, I could not tell where the front of the room was in any one of those classrooms. There was no board in the front of the room with a teacher writing on it. There were no rows of desks all lined up against the board. What does that tell a student? When you're in rows of desks up in front of a whiteboard, it says the teacher has all the control and all the power, and your job is to just write down what's on the board, right? I couldn't tell, I literally couldn't tell where the front of the room was because of the way they'd arranged the desks. And the teacher was not the one giving all the information. The teacher was a coach walking around helping to encourage the students when they got stuck. There are lots of things that we can do to ensure that we have a great student experience. Oh, one more quick example. This is a school where they said their goal was to make sure every student felt loved every day they came to school. This school had the worst attendance rating in the entire state. The worst, and they were trying to do everything they could. They would tell the parents how important it was to come to school. They were and their attendance was terrible. And so they started this campaign that's called We Love You Here, and their goal was to make sure every student felt loved every time they walked into school. In a year, they had the highest attendance rate in the state because they decided to use that experience as their level. Last thing I want to say about this, in order to have a good student experience, requires empathy. That's a word we've heard several times today. It requires empathy. We have to understand not what we think students want, not what we wanted back when we were students, not what we, hope they will want. We need to know what they really need. And the only way to do that is to understand what school looks like through their view. Now, there's a bunch of ways to do this. I'm going to share just one strategy with you called student shadowing. And if you haven't done this, I highly recommend that you do this. Pick a student, ask their permission. It would be weird if you didn't ask their permission. Ask their permission to follow them through their school day. Meet them at the beginning of the day. Could even meet them at their house, but meet them at the beginning of the day when they're walking to school and be their shadow. Follow them through everything they do. Don't try to be their mentor. Don't try to teach them. Don't try to give them all of your great ideas. Just follow them through their experience. And take notes and reflect on what you see. We've done this with school leaders all around the world. And it's fascinating when they get in, they say, I've been a school leader for 20 years. I had no idea how much time my students spend waiting on a line. Or I have no idea how frustrating it was for them when they couldn't get the attention of an adult when they needed help. Or and good things too. It's not all negative, right? There's these things. I had no idea how helpful it was to get other students talking when my student got stuck. This idea of student shadowing is a very powerful way to deeper understand the student experience. Our organization, we have 200 people that work for ISTE and AICD. Every year, we shut down our offices on a day, and we all go out into schools, and we shadow students in order to be able to keep relevant and understand what their needs are. Okay, because we have a rule in education that you can't talk for more than 10 minutes without referencing AI. It's true, right? I'm now going to talk about AI. It's part of the contract that I have to talk about. But I want to talk about AI in a slightly different way. I want to call out a shift in our thinking about AI. Most of the conversations that I hear about AI in learning focus on teacher efficiency, okay? Don't make a lesson plan, have AI make the lesson plan for you, right? Don't, have it draft an email for you, have it help give feedback for your students, have it help create content. That's all fine. It's all fine. That is not the most important conversation we should be having. The more important conversation is, how should we help teachers model effective AI use for their students? We heard about that on this panel a second ago, right? That's the conversation that we need to be having if we're going to prepare students for the future. So my question that I want to ask to guide this, related to that good experience that I mentioned before, is how can using AI help students become better humans? What are some things that we can do with our AI use to help them become better humans? I want to give you a metaphor that might help with this. And if it helps, great. If it doesn't and you think it's crazy, that's fine. I find that the biggest challenge is understanding when we need to hold on to a skill as humans and when we need to hand it off to AI. So here's the analogy that I like to use. The sports car and the dump truck, okay? So sports car, pretty good at some things. I can go very quickly from one place to another. It's pretty comfortable, pretty cool looking, right? Dump truck, also good at some things. Very good at moving heavy objects from one place to another, right? Not very comfortable to drive across the country in. Not very fast, not very sexy, right? So thinking about these two vehicles, and I think that's a helpful metaphor as we think about AI. So let's say our brain, human intelligence, I do think there is a difference, by the way. We can have that debate later between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. I would have that conversation out here if I had the chance. So we'll call it, they're two separate things. Okay, so the human intelligence, we're going to be the sports car, right? We're going to be the human intelligence. There are things that our sports car brain is really good at. We're really good at building relationships. We're really good at empathy. We're really good at humor. There's lots of things we're really good at. There are things that our human brain is not very good at. And we've done them for a long time because there was no other game in town. But we need to be brave enough to recognize when there are tasks that are not meant for the sports car that would be much better for the dump truck. It is really bad idea to haul a bunch of rocks in the sports car. That's what the dump truck is for. And if you say, but I've always hauled rocks in the car. It's what I always did. When I grew up, when we needed to haul a rock, we put it in the sports car. Okay, that's fine. But that doesn't make it a good idea. And so I think the most important lesson that we can teach here to our students, the number one thing that I hope you take away from this is students need to know when it would be irresponsible to hand an important task off to AI. Hi, students. Glad you're here. And they need to know when it would be irresponsible not to hand a task off to AI. When it's irresponsible to hold on to a task that our human brain doesn't do well. Let me give you some examples of this. In the few minutes that I have left here. And I'm going to put this up here quickly. I won't go through all of these, don't worry. I have created what I call the profile of an AI-ready graduate. Some of you have a portrait of a graduate, if you've used that, right? This is a profile of an AI-ready graduate. It's in two parts here. These are tasks that I believe students, these here, and also others in your schools, will have to be able to have by the time they graduate in order to survive in their future world. Being a learner, using AI to develop learning goals and to get unstuck. That is such an important task, to get unstuck. Being a researcher, learning how to use AI to investigate claims. Synthesizer, synthesizing and remixing information to be at the right level. Here's three more. Ideator, using AI as a tool to brainstorm and get better ideas. A connector, using AI to increase human collaboration. And the storyteller, how do we use AI to tell more compelling stories? And I don't just mean for entertainment, I mean to capture hearts and minds when there are important things that they need to get across. These skills will be required for students to survive in the future world. Let me run through a couple examples. Learner, we're going to take this one first. Students don't get nearly enough feedback. We know that. They don't get nearly enough feedback. They need far more feedback than they get. AI can be a really powerful tool if students know how to use it to get feedback. We use AI and we model AI for them to get answers. It is way more useful to use AI to give them feedback. Here are some things you could get feedback on. These are things that I've done recently, right? Here's an argument that I've made. What are the flaws in it? That is a great prompt to model to students. If somebody thought my argument was bad, why would they say it was bad, right? Here's another one. How could I make this thing that I've written more persuasive, right? That feedback is really critical in order for students to be able to thrive in this future AI world. They will be expected to get feedback on their work. Getting unstuck. This is an example of a young kid who was struggling to write. And so his teacher said, I'm going to give you some prompts that are generated by AI. So you write a sentence, and then when you're stuck and don't know what to do next, ask AI to give you just the next sentence. Not to write the whole thing for you, just give you one sentence to get you unstuck. And then he wrote the next one. And they took turns writing every other sentence to get this kid writing. It's brilliant. Here's another one. Using AI to bring ideas to life. This was an example where these students were learning about buildings of the future. They were designing buildings of the future. And these were young kids. These were second graders. They were talking about what the building of the future looks like. And this is what they were drawing. And they knew that drawing didn't look very good. They know that. Kids know that. They know that it's made of crayons. In their minds, they see an amazing future building. But they don't have the artistic ability to draw it. And so this teacher said, great, we're going to use AI to help take that idea that's in your mind and get it in a way that you can share. And this is what they came up with. Can you just hit next? Thank you. This is what they came up with. And so this was an example. And now this wasn't the first try. It took multiple times because the first time the kid said, no, it's supposed to have trees coming off the side. And they prompted it. And they finally were able to say, yes, this is what we had in our minds. This is what we've been thinking about that we haven't had the ability to draw or show before that we can show now. Okay, a couple more of these. Brainstorming. This is a really important one, you guys. I used to work for a company called IDEO. IDEO is the largest company in the world focused on designing new products, new services. It's a design firm. The human brain, that sports car brain of ours, is really good at some things. One of the things it is not good at is brainstorming new ideas. Sorry if that hurts anybody's feelings, it's true. But it's because we make decisions based on our lived experience. It's really hard to ask somebody to come up with a bunch of ideas for something you've never experienced. And so what happens is we end up with choosing between ideas when we have not explored possibilities enough. And so a great way to use AI is to say, give me more ideas. Help expand my thinking. AI is great at brainstorming. If you've ever said, I want a recipe for making a cake, right? Give me a recipe, AI, for making cake. And you said, now give me 2 more ways that I could make that cake. Now give me 20 more ways that I can make a cake. Now give me 200 more ways to make the cake. It'll be like, sure, 200 more ways to make a cake. There you go. AI is very good. That dump truck is really good at brainstorming lots of ideas. It's not great at choosing the right one. That's where the human brain comes in. But understanding when we need to hand off tasks that we're not good at to AI is a critical skill that we need to be able to survive. This will be the last example that I'll share, and then I'll wrap up. The human brain, that sports car brain of ours, not very good at synthesizing information. We try, but it's hard for us to synthesize lots of information, particularly hard when the information is not at the right level. And most of the information that we encounter in a given day is either above or below our level of understanding. And we just put up with that. We've always put up with that because we didn't have a dump truck before. We only had a sports car. But now we have a dump truck that has a very good ability to change the level of content to meet our needs. So here's an example. This is something that one of my kids was supposed to read for their high school class on US history, something, I don't even know what it is. And so I said, look, dropped it into AI, and here was the prompt. It said, give me a summary of this in 5 minutes as a video.
Hey, Richard, let me give you a quick summary of this article. Before the conclusion of the 7 Years' War in 1763, the colonists in British North America were largely content with their status within the British Empire, benefiting from...
Okay, I don't even know what he's talking about, so I'm going to stop there. So I reprompted it, and I said, hey, this time, do the same thing, but give it to me at a 6th grade level, and make the person explaining it to me a little more friendly. Here's what I got.
Before the 7 Years' War ended in 1763, the American colonists liked being part of the British Empire because it was good for them and didn't cost much.
There you go. Now I am understanding. Okay? The idea of this concept, this skill of being to re-level information to match my need, that is a skill that will be required to survive in the future. And it's a skill that requires knowing when to hand something off to the dump truck, not trying to rewrite that article myself, and when the skills should be based on the human brain. Okay, I said that was the last example. I'm lying. Here's one more, and then I promise I'm done. This is a really important one to me. Understanding how to use AI to be able to know where we have learning gaps. Here's the prompt, and I was going to do this as a live demo, but with the internet connection here, I'm going to use the screenshots instead. I just said in here, I have a test on Gupta empires. I'm not sure if I'm ready. Can you ask me some questions to help me know what I need to study? Right? Simple prompt there. And so then what I get is, sure, I'll help you prepare for your test. Let me ask you some questions. Let's start with the basics. And it asked me some questions to know what I'm doing. Now, what you don't see here, because I didn't keep taking screenshots, I did this morning, is I put in some answers that were totally wrong. Some things I got right, some things I got totally wrong. And it helped guide and correct me and nudge me and said finally, then, hey, these are some things that you need to study. You're right. It said, you're right. You are not ready for that test. Here are some things you should work on. Good luck on your test. Come back in a little bit after you've looked at those things, and we'll do another quiz with you here, right? This is a skill. This idea of using AI to help fill in gaps in learning is a skill that your students will be required to know in order to survive in the future. And it's a very powerful, if you haven't tried this, please try this. Please go and ask it to give you feedback. That's the way, this idea of using AI to get insight and feedback back is so much more valuable than using AI to just get an answer. I once, and with this story here, I once had I was at a school, and this is my worst fear if we don't get this right. I was at a school, and there was a teacher who said, I'm really busy. So I'm going to take this topic, I'm going to put it into AI, and I'm going to ask it to generate a test for me, for my students. She did, great. So then she gave it to the students, and the students said, I don't want to bother learning this stuff. So I'm going to take that question, I'm going to put it in AI, and it's going to generate an answer, right? And it did, and they sent it back to the teacher. Teacher then said, I'm really busy. I don't have time to grade that, so I'm going to put that in AI, and I'm gonna get some feedback. I'm gonna send that back to the student, right? So we just had this ping pong back and forth here. And the only thing that got smarter during that process was the AI. The humans just got dumber and dumber going back and forth. AI getting smarter and smarter, okay? That is a perfect example of having the wrong thing in the sports car and the wrong thing in the dump truck, right? If we had flipped that and said, we're going to use this in some great examples that you heard up here earlier just a second ago, we're going to use that instead to have the AI help inform me, so then when I go and talk to the teacher, we can have a conversation that's been informed by AI. That is now using the dump truck for what it's good at, preparing me, giving me feedback, and using my great human brain for what it's good at, connecting with other people and explaining. Do you see that? Just flipping what we put in the dump truck and what we put in the sports car completely changes that interaction from one where the humans are getting dumber and the AI is getting smarter to one where the humans are getting smarter because of the AI. And so my final thought that I would leave with you is please, 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 as you think about what you're doing, as you're working with your students in your school, be very thoughtful about what are those skills that belong in the sports car. What are those uniquely human skills? And what are those skills where we have to be brave enough to know that we don't need to keep doing as a human? What are those skills that we can say, it's really time to hand this off so that we have time and space to dive deeper into the uniquely human things? If we get that wrong, we will be in a lot of trouble. But if we get that right, we will superpower our students for them to be able to thrive in the future. Thank you very much for what you do.